That beautiful patch of light. Oh, a letter just fell. Check it out. This is kind of like a mock-up for a suggested cover for my book I've been working on forever. I had this old painting that was all scratched up, so I put stickers on it. It's a beautiful painting, but it had big white scratches across it. So I'm going to gradually turn the whole thing into a Cornelian shadow box. And so like the front cover over here, Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains is the book. Book 1 of 2 by Michael Farrell Smith. These might be replaced with something a little more polished. I mean, still probably Ransom Note-esque. I'm all about the DIY. I come from zine culture. I'm a zinester from way back. Breakers at Eventide, Amadio Baroni. It's like over here I'll have the back cover. Like I want to get a big publisher, but I'm going to get my book like beautiful and probably make print on demand copies before I ever even go to an agent or a publisher. Because it's a really unique vision and I want people to be able to see it really clearly. I think it'll sell itself if people can see it for its eclecticism, etc. Also, if you know what you're doing and you put tons of time into something, then like it should be pretty good. You know, it should be layered and deep. Like writing really does come down to the hours in a big way quite often. But for the book's cover, I'm going to take this giant painting outside and photograph it in nature so it'll have one additional frame around it. So it's like nature framing artificiality, framing an image of nature, you know, like levels, you know, like our modern world. And I'm going to shadow box some element of every chapter onto this cover too. And I'll have a space for the back cover text. Maybe I'll even write it. The spine we'll figure out. I'm definitely not going to use this whole part here. The sides are going to become part of the covers. Anyway. Yeah, I'm just like feeling the art spirit right now as described by Robert Henri. Feeling it in every way. I'm like, let's make this cover collage. I'm like writing a song riffing off that title from Shadows of Clouds in the Mountains. Like I'm writing the last chapter of book 1 that I'm working on right now is an oral history, but it's a memoir. And so I'm interviewing all the people that I knew in Alaska 26 years ago, this one long winter, for an essay called The Endless Winter or Soldotna, an Oral History. And it'll be book length when it's done. But I've got 3 of the 10 interviews done that I want to do for that. And it's a lot of work. You have to track down people, convince them to do everything. I had to get a recording app. It's like about a week or 2 just to transcribe stuff for each interview. But it's so cool to make yourself into a minor character. And it's secretly told in second person because everyone's addressing it to me. But I kind of edit my personality and characteristics away and just leave that stuff out so that I'm kind of blank and the reader can take the position. It's really of being like, is this a lost memory I had? It'll be so cool. I think it's going to be my favorite chapter in the book. And that's always the feeling I get when I'm working on a chapter when, you know, usually, and that's great. But I really think it's true for this one. Anyway, let's look at these books. I've been a little reluctant to dive into these, I suppose, because I recorded a 25-minute video where I was just going off about all these books, and I deleted it somehow stupidly. So this channel already has lost media. Wow. Guess who cares? Shoot, I'm now realizing I can't remember where I left off. And I can't like put this video away and come back to it and check because this phone is very particular. Okay, well, I'm completely lost here, but look at this beautiful old book, 1940s book. And this was like someone's lovingly made epic. I mean, it's so beautifully produced, and like everything, even the frontispiece and everything is just so nice. There's an old book plate. Belonged to Gail M. Hinckley. Anyone know that person? But listen to this. Which had no boundaries in time and space, where lurked musical and strange names and mythical and lost peoples, and which was itself only a name, musical and strange. This sounds wild. 1948 from Cambridge, where the first English language books in North America were printed. Cambridge, including a Puritan collection of proverbs. Clunkily translated, I hear. Actually, I know I read excerpts in A History of American Literature Before 1770 by Moses Court Tyler. Very good. I'm going to read this book, bring it back into fashion. Oh man, I thought it was filming. Anyway, this book has a beautiful, real organized today, beautiful dedication. And there's something really interesting. In Raintree County, the time never passes. Look at that. Clock on the courthouse tower, I'm on page 5 or 6. Ranger County Atlas is always fixed at 9 o'clock, and it is summer, and the days are long. That's so cool. Did I talk about this one? I love Mutiny on the Bounty, based on a true story. 3 amazing, exciting books. Each one of the books is super exciting. The Mutiny, the survival on the life raft afterward, the survival on an island of the mutineers. Really wild. And I have a good nonfiction book that fact checks it all and shows what was made up. But it's like a pretty amazing true story also. They were all about the breadfruit trade, which was food for slaves, cheap food for slaves, often grown by slaves also. And so they were not like party of great people. But, they were certainly of that time. Yikes. I mean, it's exciting. I'll never forget being on my 7-month canoe trip around the circumference of Lake Powell. And my friend coming out to canoe with me for a couple of months in the middle, who's fighting cancer right now. Ray, I'm rooting for you, man. But he read all the books I had in the dry bag, and I had the Mutiny on the Bounty trilogy, and he was like so into it. It was great watching my basketball playing jock friend just get really into literature. He's like, I feel like I'm in an African American studies class a little bit on this trip, because he read a bunch of books like we had To Kill a Mockingbird, and we had Black Like Me from John Howard Griffin. I just had like whatever was around, and it was a yeah. We read a bunch of stuff. It's crazy. And we would have all these great conversations about books just out in the middle of nowhere. Then we went crazy because there was only rice to eat. Anyway, another story. Just picked this up because my friend Lisa Barrow said it's good. The dust jacket is smudged. Can't believe I lost a 25-minute recording. I had stuff to say. I've got nothing to say. I spent all summer working with someone named Clara, like the main person. And so of the expedition I was on, she was the group leader. Not spelled with a K, but so this book title could apply to my summer. I spent a lot of time out in the sun, hiking around with 13 teenagers and a couple of staff members, Claire and Sophia. It was cool. We went all over, had crazy adventures. The Ice Palace. I just picked this up. It's marked up, but it looks unusual enough that I'm like, I gotta get it. This was from the free pile in the teacher's lounge at a high school. Received the Nordic Council Prize. It's Norway. That sounds good. The meaning is powerful as the ice piling up on the lake. Cold and simple as ice. Oh, I like this. The publisher came out and gave it a quote. I regard The Ice Palace as the best book we've ever published. Can you imagine getting that compliment as an author? All those other books we've published, they're crap compared to your book. Wow, thanks. Doris Lessing, how simple this novel is, how subtle, how strong, how unlike any other. It is unique, it is unforgettable, it is extraordinary. All right, I'll read it. This book kind of messed with me. And now I'm messing with me because I'm like, did I record this in another video? Anyway. This is about Coral Castle, this unique architectural anomaly in southern Florida in the Keys. This guy built it seemingly by himself. He claimed he had the power of the Great Pyramids. I walked through it on a hike across the country with a charity hike called the Hike for Hope 2001 back in 2001. And it was one of the first really interesting spots we stopped. That we were sleeping on old railroad bridges parallel to the highways. It was very cool. And it was very striking. It was like seeing Stonehenge or something. How would someone build this? These are huge blocks of stone. And he claimed to do it using this little fancy thing here. In fact, that's what he called it. Just kidding. Dear reader, here you will find the lost science of the Great Pyramid. Joe Bullard. This novel really drew me in. I liked it. I was reading it as research for a miniseries screenplay that I was writing. Entrance. You will be seeing unusual accomplishment. 10 cents. Drop below. But yeah, this is a good book. Oh, and so I was writing about it for I was just reading everything about Florida when I was writing the Florida episode of that 7-episode miniseries. The episodes are Florida, the South, Virginia, north of South, New England, Maine, and Canada. And a lot of stuff happened on that hike. Like 9/11 happened right during that hike, and we like hiked through the after effects of it. We literally were in Portland, Maine, the same night as the terrorists, and we had just walked by every single site from Pennsylvania Fields to the World Trade Center to the Pentagon. Before that, we'd been in New York 3 weeks before. It was pretty wild. And then we lived with the aftermath and kept getting stopped by police and even arrested over and over again. Anyway, so I wrote this thing about it, and I was just reading all about Florida. I read a really good book called Oh, Florida. This was a good one to revisit, but it kind of like shook my worldview a little bit. I mean, like, it's a compelling case that this guy had access to some sort of magnetic technology that has been lost. And, you know, maybe the Egyptians knew some stuff. Why couldn't technology get lost? Think about the Archimedes Codex that's been found, like a primitive calculator-like computer, and not that primitive from ye olde ancient times. Who knows? In that video that got deleted, I said that it's the kind of stuff that makes me think I'll lose all my friends if I go follow it too deeply, or have to get new friends. Because, yeah, then I'm like reading about the Great Pyramid, and I'm like, yeah, what is with all the quartz? Why does it seem like a big battery? Like, what y'all doing? You know? All I know is anytime humans think they know everything, it's like, we're going to soon find out that you're wrong. There's a book in the science section, The Day We Discovered the Universe, when all those dust clouds scientists have been so sure about in the sky proved to be galaxies. Like, yeah, we're always expanding our knowledge. There's going to be major, I mean, as I think Arthur C. Clarke or one of those sci-fi greats said, reality might not only be stranger than we know, it might be stranger than we can know. Maybe we need to hook our minds together into some giant technology-enhanced collective, and to even think the big thoughts that'll really, you know, advance us as consciousnesses. There's some crazy stuff ahead. I'm a big fan of All Tomorrows, the video on YouTube where they read this book by a paleontologist and visualize it. It's 40 minutes long, and it's a history of the next billion years of humanity. I'm like, this just feels true. Love it. Good sci-fi, really interesting, really thought-provoking. I've made students watch it before and no one got anything out of it. Anyway, but I think it's great. Yeah, oh, this one gets real far out. Aliens and stuff. Oh, I just hope all the weird stuff that we ever suspected about existence is true, you know? I'm really rooting for that. Here's a writer that's lauded among the modern day literati. I swear I looked at this in a video that didn't get deleted. Dang it. I will read this. She's very experimental, I hear, in her approaches. Has intricate symbolism and layered experiments going on in her work. Curious. She is without question one of our most important living writers. I gotta say, though, it just like breaks my brain with reading book flaps when I know that like most authors have to write their own material. So I'm always laughing. Lemony Snicket out of that fact, I remember. Daniel Handler. She's prolific. Oh, she's British. Okay. I don't love obvious CGI on covers. I'm like, a lazy designer can't just get a piece of notebook paper and put it on top of something to get the real effect. No, I'm just kidding. Am I? No, I hate that on covers. Here's the worst example of that on a cover. I mean, why bother? Like, quit your job. You should not be in graphic design. Seriously. I've wanted to say that to a couple of designers before. Just like, you don't have it. Like, think of all the ways that could have looked better. And it's just like this weird fake. Yeah, sometimes I'll drive, but no, I did review this in one that didn't get deleted, I think. Shoot. Speed Run. Harold Bloom liked this novel. It's about a forest that's bigger on the inside than on the outside, kind of like House of Leaves. And a family that lives next to it over a long time. It's kind of like 100 Years of Solitude from Gabriel Garcia Marquez a little bit, but different. One of those books where I'm like, should I put that in the fantasy section or the literature? No, I swear I filmed this. I'm like going insane. Did I get War and Peace? You know? Whatever. I tried, everybody. Not that hard. Well, I heard this is Sheila Heti recommended it. I listened to her. She's such an interesting writer, like in that, you know, she writes high literary work, and it's so obvious, and it's so like idea rich and idea strong. It's awesome. But then she'll like write in Entertainment Weekly. I think that's really cool. That's a cultural space I'd like to hang out in, where it's like there's overlap between the higher and the more general entertainment. Because I like that stuff. Like, I've enjoyed all the Fast and the Furious movies. I feel like you can appreciate anything on whatever level. But she seems to be a in vogue literary person right now, and I hear this is good. Winner of the Sunday Times Young Writer of the Year. Oh, notable. Bestseller. My older brother is a young adult writer, and I know has chased that New York Times bestseller tag for a long time, but that is such a hard thing to get. They base it on like unknowable metrics, like sales and what this one store in this one place is doing one time and what this other store is doing at another time. You know, people also buy their way onto that list with asterisks. And anyway, my brother, I know, has sold millions of copies. He's written some very popular series. People have tattoos of his characters and dress up as them for Halloween. Someone climbed Trump Tower and used a name from one of his books as his name. Remember that weirdo with the suction cups? That guy called himself Levin Thumps, and that's one of my brother's characters in his book. I'm like, this is a weird cultural moment for you, Rob. That's my brother's real name, Rob. Anyway, it's hard to get that New York Times thing. Sometimes if you get it on a slow day, it can be easier than, getting it on a different day. But if anyone knows how to hack that system, I and many others would love to hear it. It's just like one bookstore in Iowa that has to sell 3 copies during an hour or something. Let's open it to a random sentence, and that'll be our fortune. Marianne knows how he feels about her, really. Just because he gets shy in front of her friends doesn't mean it's not serious between them. It is. I don't think I was even filming this thing. I was all, let's open the book and get a fortune. All right. Sorry I'm late, he says. There was some protest on, so the bus was delayed. So we should think about how that applies to our lives. And, ultimately when I say I'm late, if I want to be really ingratiating to the people, I say my excuse or whatever it is, and then I say, and poor time management. Because that's ultimately true. Even if my kid made me late by not being ready, like, I should have been there earlier if I had better time management. So anyway, it's really cool to learn these lessons really late in life, I didn't need to know these things a long time ago. No, not that I'm late in life. Mid-40s, I'm like, maybe science will have some big breakthrough. I'm essentially an infant, because everyone's going to live to be age 200. Another copy of this. In the video that got deleted, I think it's the one that got deleted. I said this title sometimes mocks me from the shelf as I experience IRL entropy. Yeah, things fall apart. This is used in that great Talking Heads lyric. Things fall apart. It's scientific. And it's true, entropy is the founding principle of the universe. Rewind 13.8 billion years to the Big Bang and everything is blowing apart. And then all creation is ensuing as a result of collisions from within that. Outward explosions. Entropy is creative. Destruction is creation. All hail destruction. All hail destruction. Anyway, sorry I'm going off here, but this is a beautiful book. So, how sometimes you're making a joke and then you get possessed by it. Anyway, novel of social change. The student edition defines things in a nice way. Probably reviewed this already. It'd be a funny running gag to just have one book that keeps turning up in every single step. Norton, I love you. I really do. What a great company. You just do good jobs. You design good books. Your anthologies are great. I'm glad you exist. Keep it up. They're probably owned by some giant company now. I should look that up. It's like the big 5 keeps shrinking. The big 4. The big 3. I hear this is experimental. Did I lose? I think I did. Like a velvet cleaner or something for it. But I hear that John Barth does a really good job of like holding your hand and walking you through the difficult parts of his experimental work so that you can kind of enjoy what's going on too. I love that Billy Wilder quote. If you're going to be subtle, at least be obvious about it. Like if you're going to do cool stuff, be a little Machiavellian. Make sure it gets noticed. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, it's cool to have more deeply buried things, buried things, so that people can continue to find things. You know, Dostoevsky, just read those notebooks of how he wrote. Like, he was layering in so many different ways. He was always thinking about things in so many different ways. Well, what about the historic perspective of this, you know? But I really like that Barth will like do that, I hear. I have not read him, but I saw a presentation from a college friend. And so my chapters in my book are grouped in sections. So like in the first book, it's like youth, growth, north, east, west. I can't remember, something like that. West and north again, something like that. And anyway, at the start of each of those, I have these specially formatted pages that look different than any other page, where I'm kind of like setting up what's going on. And I was thinking about Barth when I was doing that, just like, yeah, why not tell people this next chapter is going to be a little challenging, but hang in there. Here's why I'm doing it. A little bit, you know? A magician can reveal the tricks a little bit as they go, and it's still interesting, I think. I don't think I even have a copy of all my publications from lit journals and stuff. I give them away to family and stuff. I used to give them to my dad all the time before he forgot who I was. Check it. The Speed of Grass, The Speed of Us by Michael Farrell Smith. So that's why I keep that. You know, feel free to check out. This video is already long enough, but I guess I could read this. This is like maybe I'll just read part of it. So this whole thing is one sentence fragment, or true fragment, punctuated only by dashes. And of course, the occasional apostrophe or hyphen. And I suppose italics are considered punctuation. The Speed of Grass, The Speed of Us. A memoir of a fraction of an instant, in a fraction of a place, an exploration of something so fleeting, 1/60th of 1 second, more momentary than a moment, a world of time and time, rushing, surging, flooding from the 60th of a second that came before, toward, and into the 60th of a second bound to follow. A progression so inevitable, instantaneous, pure motion, whatever that is, the apparent motion of time, whatever that is, a moment, yes, a moment, whatever that is, so fleeting there could be no room at all for anyone to make any choice within it, not consciously anyway. A moment like all moments, seemingly still and yet made of movement, unstoppable, relentless, fast, something so small it is maybe only a description of something larger, 1/60th of 1 second, on maybe 1/quadrillionth of the surface of the earth, an infinitesimal portion of all time and all space arbitrarily parceled away, held down, held close by a piece of shining sidewalk, a trapezoid of growing lawn, a cracking concrete slab, and along almost all that, by the front of the house, its eroding pink-orange bricks, its glistening white trim, its slumping screen door, the lawn settling up against it like a newly broken wave, closing liquidly around a branching lavender bush, around greenery tangling beneath a faucet, around a snaking of garden hose, around 2 volcanic young elms rising uninvited from a grass-erupting flower box beside the slab, a raft, and riding that raft a family of 4, a woman, tall, my then wife, then 28, legs crossed, crisscross applesauce, the kids would say, in green-strapped Teva sandals, bare legs, jean shorts, a green t-shirt, V-necked, green eyes, ponytail, hands on her legs, eyes and smile aiming up, and a man, me, taller, sitting slightly apart, my then self, also 28, also cross-legged, also in Tevas, mine brown, strapped in blue jeans with 2 fraying holes over one knee, and a soft blue shirt showing a screen-printed silhouette of power lines and 2 double-beamed utility poles. In rectangular wire eyeglasses, brown eyes, brown hair, sideburns, eyes and smile aiming up. And why were we smiling? Do we feel anything, think anything in that 60th of a second, that splinter of the late afternoon of August 18th, 2008? And how could we have in that emerging, evanescing, blooming, dying instant, thoughtless, emotionless, senseless, perspectiveless, even with this persistent, unsettling, unverifiable sense that I did exist, was conscious that everyone was something sensed, not in any 60th of a second, but in bigger, baggier, more ill-fitting times, in seconds, in minutes, this feeling that I was experiencing the world, that the woman who was my wife and our kids and our cat nearby were experiencing the world, that all those plants were experiencing the world, shifting toward light, stretching toward water, displaying simple preferences and desires. But in this moment, only motion, hurtling into something on our way, toward hurtling even further into something else, no different from any other collection of particles, fated to do only what the previous moments commanded us to, condemned us to, sentenced us to, sit, smile, be, look up, our kids the same, poor things, bound by everything we were, our oldest, our little girl, then 3 sitting before us, between us, as if in a separate row, shoulder-length honey dark hair pinned back, lips pursed, green eyes tilting up in weary disbelief, looking like who wants her to what and why, looking where we all looked, in a coarse pink dress with pink buttons down the front, a blue-clad cloth doll in one hand, a blue butterfly-shaped pillow clutched maybe, hopefully, in the other, legs out straight, a tall scab on the right, blue plastic Crocs on her feet, observing, assessing, more than anything growing like the bush, the elms, the grass green and crowded with seemingly parallel lines of one approximate length, bristling, soft, individually alive, 3,000 cells per square foot, racing up from the soil at the speed of an inch a week, so actually pretty slowly, but doing so even in this fragment of a flake of an instant with the exploding bush, the leaf-brimming elms, all those soft rockets of grass, all flustering water and minerals up into greening cells, growth, hurrying, all things toward the sun, and the light from the sun toward them as it had to toward the grass which the light met all over, at once all over, in one part of 1 second, in one late afternoon, in one nearly early evening, the light crashing toward us, down onto us, into us, from over the roof, from the other side of the house, from across a mostly desert city, from across a sun-umbered desert mesa, from a row of dormant volcanoes, from a western horizon 13 miles away, and from way farther out, the projectiles of light like the arrows of a billion spectral archers, the light a dry light, the light a sideways light, nearly parallel to the ground, moving faster maybe even than time, if time moves, what is time, plummeting toward the sidewalk, into a flat crater on the grass, sidewalk shining, and that piece of lawn shining, and most of the lawn not shining, graying, simmering coolly in bright shade, blocked from the day and its final bounties of light by our house, by us, everything in light or in shadow, no other options. The shadow of the house falling east, across the grass, a shadow, like all shadows, secretly three-dimensional, the shadow a clear gray wedge beneath a curling wave of light, and other shadows, smaller shadows, shadows of ourselves beneath that wave falling west, falling barely out from beneath our westernmost limbs, our knees, our feet, so many shadows, and yet our side of the earth still blasting up light, the light still striking and exploding up, our slab a molten spark inside the blast, our side of the planet a planet-sized bomb, an explosion of light blasting up from a night-black shell, while on the other side, night, darkness, the shadow of a planet, a shadow seemingly flung out into space, Earth, a planet-sized shadow bomb, its shell gleaming hot, its darkness exploding into space, and whoa, to me, that is Earth. 2 bombs, 1 world, conjoined bomb twins, blasting light, blasting shadow, rolling through space with us, part of it. And in that moment, the late afternoon, we were blasting light, and soon after, we would blast up shadow, and always we were sending up shadow, or always we were sending up light, and light was coming to us, speeding along more than 3,000 miles in just that 60th of a second, from outer space into our space, onto my wife, me, our daughter, our son then just 1-year-old beside my knee, blonde, still mostly bald, forehead prominent, eyes hazel, his whole face looking up like my wife and me and his sister toward a digital camera in the hands of my visiting father, a tall gray-haired man still pressing a button, still facing my wife and me, our daughter, our son, a boy unsmiling but affectionate, trusting in slack and a cream-colored button-up shirt, brown shorts, little bare legs out in front, straddling a line in the concrete and soft leather shoes, robies, red and black, his hands atop a hard plastic haystack, highlighter yellow, a toy from a playset as if blessing it, as if pushing it gently into semi-liquid ground, in this so like the lawn and the slab, the house and the door, the mom and the dad, the girl and the boy, all coursing downward, drifting in gravity, twining among invisible currents, sinking toward the center of the planet, floating, bobbing, blocked from travel by the world itself. Though how far can anyone fall in 1/60th of a second? Some find a time equivalent of absolute zero, a unit so small that nothing at all could happen within it, and even that would be part of the fall. Even that would contain part of the story of being, the story of the only story. Even then we would be hurtling, locked in time from one sliver of existing to the next, hurtling on a concrete raft into the crust, toward the mantle, toward the unseen spinning core, a spinning foundation, how appropriate. All the world somehow resting on something dizzying and unstable, while also hurtling outward, whipping around an axis, around the sun, around the black hole at the center of our galaxy, a family on a slab, on a planet, rafting solar system and Milky Way like 2 overlapping whirlpools, hurtling also toward another galaxy and hurtling apart, everything expanding, also toward another galaxy. Ever, even us, continuing an expansion begun and obeying the same laws established in the first such fraction of a second, everything imperceptibly expanding, aging, decaying, cracking, crumbling, sidewalk and cement prey to water and weeds, the house both embraced by and imploding beneath gravity, the elms and the bush and the grass as mortal as any of us, the world beneath the grass roiling with bacteria and tiny life, rotting and bursting and breathing up gases, the world beneath the grass, another mesa, more desert, waiting without warning, the sky carbonizing all around us, the breeze continuing its interminable circuits, the air, the fried marble air, fishing from electromagnetic waves, from distant lightning strikes, from sunstorms, from exploding galaxies, from one fraction of 1 second, billions of years before the very beginning, a family of humans, our skins sloughing off into ghostly clouds, hovering as we leaned into our clothes, our cells oxidizing, our lives oxidizing, our time passed before we even knew it was happening, our place spinning into being only her place, our feelings for each other as a married couple, as subject to entropy, as our bodies, as the physical world, our children growing, good, yes, good, our love for our children growing and everything growing, failing, moving, falling apart, the distance between me and my wife, slowly but inexorably widening, our regards for each other and our hopes for our future, following the hands of our private doomsday clock, moving, ticking forward, cracks in the concrete continuing to form, grass in the cracks continuing to grow, whatever we had beginning to split, and yet the ground beneath us, at least looking solid, looking immovable, and across the grass, on the grass, a purple and white swing set with a slide and a teeter-totter, and on the grass closer, our cat, black, furry, stolid, facing away from us, legs tucked up underneath, and near my son, on the concrete, smudging black burns from July 4th fireworks, and on the concrete behind me, a row of faint inscriptions facing the door from when the cement was first drying and another family lived there with other kids. 4/29/93, April 29th, 1993. 2 bare little feet pressed into the cement from a baby boy, and 3 slightly larger handprints near those, all his older sister. And between those and the front door, a welcome mat, welcoming, and over all this, on all of this, light colliding into it, and light speeding away from it and from us, and on the cement, a family, a mom, a dad, a daughter, a son, a husband, a wife, a sister, a brother, a woman, a man, a girl, a boy, light, 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 the light careening at the speed of light, the grass growing at the speed of grass, us being at the speed of us, our hearts beating 1/60th of one beat, our blood rivering 6/10 of 1 inch from a heart-shaped source. And there was not much time, just enough for a camera shutter to open and close, and there was not much time, just enough to see who we were, and there was not much time, just enough to continue something already begun, and there was not much time, only just... Hey, I still like that one. It looks like it could loop back on itself. And it's the word count is exactly the year that this took place in. A little secret thing. I think when I format this into book 2 of my book, I'm going to break it into paragraphs. I'll still keep it one big sentence fragment, but I think it'll just be easier on the reader to do that. And I wrote it in paragraphs, so there's some natural breaks in there. Yeah, I was like, how short could a memoir be? Like, I've read things before that are descriptions of photos, but what about a description of the amount of time it takes for a photo to be taken? Which for the digital camera I thought was 1/60th of 1 second. So I was like looking at all the numbers for what happens during that little amount of time. And then it asks these big questions like free will and determinism, like if every instant automatically leads to the next, how much choice are you making within that? Suggests paradoxes and stuff. Sorry, if you watch that, cool, thanks for as indulgent on my part, but hello. It's fine. Enjoy your nap. So yeah, I'm insane now. Well, so that was that. Almost done with the novels. Looks like one more little chunk there. What should I look at next after that? Paperback nonfiction case might be kind of interesting to look at. Let's check it out maybe next. I'm really looking forward to this one that's all writing books, but that might not be everyone's thing. This is nonfiction paperback overflow, but then it's all the weird books from my researches. I used to write a column called My Strange New Mexico. Anyway, talking about fiction, Oh, that piece I read is not fiction, though. That's a nonfiction work. That's creative nonfiction. It's literally about a moment captured in a photograph. It's scrupulously nonfiction. Anyway, peace out, y'all. I hope you're enjoying your own readings and, thinking about making your own work in whatever ways, Your life can be your art. Not all artists have to be like making stuff, I think if you live conscientiously, then that's an artful life. But if you also make cool stuff that you can share with others and use as points of contact, yeah. Sorry, this video is way long. Who will watch it? Maybe no one. Maybe just you, though. You're super cool. Thanks for watching. Take care. Later. That's very possible.